picked for the first one because I was well, I'm Libby Norris.
Our master goldsmith.
I have been doing jewelry since 2001. I've been with Stacy here coming up on 4 years. Best place I've ever worked, obviously. But yeah, recently I was lucky enough that Stacy sent me out to a workshop on this amazing technique. And we're excited to share with you guys. So if you guys want to come into the shop, we'll keep going. Everybody's gonna have in here. Everybody can see. So a little bit about the, what granulation is and its history. It is an incredible decorative jewelry technique that's been around since approximately 2500 BC. In what was the earliest known examples we have it come from a tomb in Sumer, which is modern day Iraq. And from there it kind of spread with the spread of trade through Troy, Minoan Crete, who really perfected the technique is the Etruscans. That's a lot of the examples you see in museums. A lot of the styles you see in granulated jewelry is still very much, following along their patterns, their prowess in this. From there, it kind of fell off. There was a little bit of movement through the east. I'm umming a lot, sorry.
It's okay, you're doing great.
But so you find this process in a lot of cultures is what it comes down to. One of the things that Stacy found out that was really interesting is that pre-Columbian, so here's my chart. So before the 16th century, pre-Columbians were using this technique as well, and they had not had any European contact at that point that we are aware of. So it's really interesting to see that this came up independently through the different cultures. What it is exactly, it is a process putting decorative elements, generally little gold balls, fusing them to a backplate in patterns, and it's the unusual thing about it is that it is not soldered. Modern jewelry, mostly patterns and designs are put down with solder. That's introducing a small bit of another metal with a lower melting point that when heated joins the pieces together. The thing about soldering is that it moves. So if you heat that piece up again, if gravity or if something's bumping it, it can shift. Granulation is using a process called fusion bonding. It's generally done in very high carat metal. So what I learned on was 18 karat gold, a special alloy of 18 karat gold. It can also be done with fine silver. The process involves introducing a copper salt, it's a fine copper powder, and melting the piece almost up to melting point. And the introduction of that little bit of copper means that the melting point of the metal at that junction is lower. So you hit that sweet spot and it flashes and it creates a molecular bond, which means that no matter how many more times you heat this up, it ain't going nowhere. It is together forever. The really cool thing about that, and what I was really excited to learn with it at my class, is that there's kind of no limits with granulation. So you can it's very playful. You can just keep adding. You can say, oh, well, I've had this piece for, a month or so, and I think it needs a little more. So I'm just gonna put it back on the torch, and I'm gonna add another element. I feel like that works really good for us here at InBloom. It's a very playful, artistic style that Stacy definitely has. So it was really, really excited to bring this back and start offering it here. let's see, one of the other interesting things about it is the type of torch it uses. So I learned on a German blowpipe torch. Generally, the torch I use every day is propane and oxygen. I control the flow of fuel with knobs on the torch, set it, and then while I'm doing it, it's pretty much done. Granulation takes what's called a reducing atmosphere, which means that there's not a lot of oxygen getting to the piece. That keeps oxides from forming. It keeps the piece very clean, which is what needs to happen to make that molecular bond. It also, because of that quick point of melting that you've got to watch for, you really need control. So you use a blowpipe. So this is propane, and then I'm supplying the air, which means I have very, very fine control over the temperature and when that temperature needs to go away. Another different thing about it is that you quench the piece while it's hot to, again, create that reducing atmosphere so that oxygen can't get to it and, make it black, basically. Make those oxides form. So it's definitely a very different way of working. Makes me wish I had played a wind instrument or a trumpet in college. I did not. I was a strings person. I did not have to learn circular breathing, but I'm doing okay with it. A little bit about the class. It was with a gentleman named Kent Rabley. I always pronounce his name wrong. He's going to have to forgive me, Kent. He's basically one of the modern masters of granulation. He went to basically backpacking around Europe in the 70s and ended up taking a jewelry class and kind of never looked back. And he's really very well known in the jewelry industry for his expertise on the subject. It was basically a bucket list class. I had known about him for a long time in college and things like that. So getting to go to his store or his studio and learn from him was incredible. This is his website. You can see some of his pieces. They're just incredible in the level of detail. He actually has a piece in the Smithsonian at the Renwick Gallery down in DC, which I can scroll back up and show you in a minute. Another amazing part of this was that he opened his safe for us, and everyone in the class was allowed to pick up and look at and turn over, his pieces and see how he constructs things. Because that's what every jeweler wants to do in a museum, is look at the back, basically. How did they make this, right? I want to know, yes, it's beautiful, I appreciate it, but how's that catch work? How's that, how do you do that? So, yeah, this is the piece that's in the Smithsonian. It's called World of Vanishing Illusions, and just incredible. Incredible work. So, take you through the little slideshow here. It took my pictures out of order, I think. Oh no, it didn't. I just wasn't scrolled down. So he's got a beautiful studio in Washington State. I didn't need to edit the album. Thank you. There we go. Again, you see the blowpipe torch. And these are our test pieces we did. He just kind of basically threw us right in, hey, here's gold, here's the torch, go for it. The granules themselves are made in a very cool way. So we alloyed our own gold. I had to take an ounce of pure gold all the way across the country, which was a little nerve-wracking through not customs, but security and everything. I'm please don't, nobody inspect this. It's a very particular alloy of 18 karat gold. It uses about, I believe it's 19% silver and 3% copper, and that's something that he's developed and found that it works best to make this process happen. So we alloyed our own gold and rolled it out into an ingot, and basically had to do everything from scratch. So the silver guy there on the bench, the rolling mill with the big handle, he had a couple of those, and so from here, I cut part of it, made it into sheet, cut part of it, made it into wire. The pieces that I made at the class are these two here. So you can see this is what's on the screen now is the process of making this piece.
Can we pass those around?
Yeah, we can, if you want to take the tray. So we've, these three pieces I've made. These other ones are just some examples of granulation. These are bracelets that we've had gotten in trade. These are a pair of earrings from in trade, and these are actually costume jewelry pieces that are from my own collection that they are not worth anything. They are like bubblegum, but it shows you how pervasive and how popular this technique is that, you know, people are still imitating it.
Does it only work in gold?
You can do fine silver too.
Okay.
So a particular alloy of silver, almost pure. So I haven't played with that yet because we're goldies. We're goldies. The ginkgo piece, I also did the process of what's called chasing and repoussé, which is putting it into a soft pitch. It's basically like pine tar and using hammers on chisels on both sides to kind of shape and add texture and dimension. So it's really cool too.
Oh, it's lovely.
So you mentioned breathing into the hose, and you're trying to keep oxygen away from the process, so
Yes.
You're effectively introducing CO2. Is that?
I
It's
think
not
so.
set.
Yeah.
I'm not
Set in there.
100% sure on all the science,
Mhm.
but the fire itself keeps the oxygen out because
Oh,
the oxygen is
because it's
being
burning
consumed by the
it's-
fire.
okay,
Yeah.
right.
So,
She's gonna demo.
yeah, I'm going to do a demo here in a second. This is the process of making the ring. And again, I was saying about how playful and how forgiving this process is. I brought the ring back from Washington State and decided this past week that it needed rails on the side. It needed, you know, a little bit more. So I just put them on there and took it back to the torch and welded them back in. Here's me and Kent in his beautiful studio. We had a good time. He's an excellent teacher. The granules themselves, he actually worked with a machinist to make this little guy here. This is the Kent Granule chopper. Basically, this has a little set screw that you can adjust the length of the piece being fed through it, and has a little blade that comes down, and you just feed through, and this cuts very, very precise, even pieces of gold, so that you can pass these around. And then you take those pieces and you layer them in powdered charcoal in a crucible, so that they can melt into a perfect sphere. If I tried to melt them on my soldering pad here, they'd always have a flat spot, because, you know, it's the surface tension wants to ball up, but it still can't ball up past, you know, gravity. So what the charcoal powder does is lets it float surrounded. There's no weight on it, so everything can come up and be perfect little spheres. And we do that in the kiln, and then it's very, very messy, sifting them back out. Here. There we go. So you can see this is the batch I made. You'll see. These little guys are about 0.7.8 millimeter is the batch I made. So wee little, but this means that I can control the size super precise. So out of the batch I get about 2 pennyweights, which there's 20 pennyweights in a troy ounce, which is the measurement that jewelers use. Out of that, there was really only, I'd say, 0.05 pennyweights that weren't the right size. Where either I didn't have a piece, like it got a little bit smaller, or pieces melted together that they were touching in the charcoal powder, and so they doubled. So we had a really good first attempt at it, so that was cool. So yeah, so I've actually left a little bit undone on this piece here. This is going to be the pendant that matches the earrings. And I've left a little undone so I can show you all the process, which unfortunately means I have to turn my back to you, but hopefully we'll be able to see what's going on in the camera. So the process of putting the granules down, we use an organic binder. This is gum traganuth. Don't ask me what gum traganuth is, but it's the magic sauce that lets all this happen. So you take a fine brush down here and use that to pick up your granules. Please let me know if it's really bad that you can't see. But this is I swear the hardest part of this process is getting the granules to stick to the brush. There they go. Alright, that was the next one. So I basically just got one little free spot left in here. One little triangle to complete my pattern. And you just kind of nudge it with that coating on it, and it wants to stick together because that's, when things get wet, they want to stick together.
Is it easier to use a brush than another tool?
Like a pair of tweezers or something?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because again, when things get wet like that, they want to stick to everything, so it's, I think, a little harder to get them off the tweezers than it is to get them off the brush. It's like a fine watercolor brush, so like a sable.
Okay.
Thank you. You kind of see they're the darker ones. Oh, they just shifted on camera for us. They're the darker ones there. I'm going to nudge them back where they belong. It's a two-step process to get the granules fused down. Take this over to my little soldering station. Get this turned over.
Can you point your camera, honey?
Yes.
There you go.
And I did clean this lens, but I don't know why it is not be. Alright. So again, like I said, it's a two-step process to get the granules fused down. The gum traganuth, when I heat it up to annealing temperature, so not near melting, but it will kind of dry up and fuse solid, and then I can go back and add the copper salts to make the actual magic happen. So here we go.
She's turned her light off so that she can see the color change.
And they shifted on me. So we're gonna have to wait a second while that cools down. Yeah, the light turning off is so I can see when it, annealing temperature, the metal becomes like a dull red color. So does anyone have any questions while we wait for that to cool down so I can move them around again?
So you said it shifted, it just moved out of the place that they wanted.
Yeah, what I should have done was heat it up slower. And so when the water evaporated from the stuff, it bubbled and moved them. But that's performance anxiety.
All eyes on you.
Yeah.
Used to being here in your cubby all by yourself.
Yeah, usually it's just me and Adrian back here, hanging out, so.
How do you create your designs? Do you draw sketches or whatever pops into your head? Or
So here at InBloom, most of the signs are Stacy's. For this class, I kind of put myself in the InBloom mindset and wanted to make things that represented our store and our brand, if you will. So that's why the ginkgo leaf, that's a motif that we really enjoy and use a lot here. And it's really easy to use that as a jumping off for designs. As far as the more geometric ones, that's more pulling creativity, you know. It's the triangles and diamonds are a very common motif in granulation. So when we're doing the necklace and the earrings, we wanted to, you know, showcase the traditional stuff, but then as we do more of this process, as we move forward, we really want to see where we can, you know, kind of push the envelope and do things, you know, do things differently, move more away from that traditional look, which we'll certainly offer if that's what people want, but we want to in-bloomify it. All right, let me see if this is cooled down enough. You'll hear my scissors sizzle, not my paintbrush sizzle. There we go. Come on, friends, get back in line. All right. Slowly this time. I don't know if, yeah, you can't really see it glowing there, but
You can see it a little, yeah.
it's that dull red point is where the metal's annealed, and that's the temperature he told us to watch out for when that glue dries enough that then we can add the copper.
So Libby, can I ask you something?
Absolutely.
On that part where you're using, because you were using the what do you call it?
The blowpipe.
Blowpipe. How long did it take you to kind of get that dialed in?
I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I definitely still don't have the circular breathing. Like
Yeah.
Kent is able to
Just
keep it
steady.
solid.
Yeah.
I have to breathe and the flame comes off. Luckily, it is pretty forgiving.
Mhm.
So I haven't had any trouble with that. But yeah, it's the first couple of days I was really out of breath. Stacy sent me a note, was like, please don't pass out.
No hospital visits.
Yeah, so this is the copper salts that they gave us to use, just green powder. There's apparently a couple different ways you can do it. When I kind of took a stab at teaching myself this process years ago, and they said to put some copper and some pickle, like just a little bit. Pickle is the stuff we use to remove oxides from metal after it's been soldered. They said to like put some copper in a small amount of pickle so that it leaches a bunch of copper into that solution. What we use is like a citric acid solution, and use that as the binder. But I didn't have a ton of success on my own, so it was really exciting to get the class. So this is. Bring this back over here to paint the stuff. Alright, so it's using the same solution. I'm just going to put like 2 or 3 drops of that in the lid of my container here, and we just pick up a tiny bit of this stuff on the end of the paintbrush and mix it in. One of the things that's a little tricky that I don't know that I've completely mastered yet is like dialing in the exact amount of copper that you want, because you want enough for it to create the bond, but if it gets elsewhere, if it gets all over your piece, then you're gonna see surface variations where it, you know, is changing the melting temperature of that gold too. So you'll get kind of like shiny spots, or you can even get like pitted spots if it's too big. if there's too much. So that's one of the things that he said, you know, it just comes with experience. You can see which ones they are, because it's the ones that are the brightest yellow here. So I got a little extra in places, so I'm just washing off my brush and trying to gather away with a clean brush where it went where I did need it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, I don't know, even if I pass this around, if you'd be able to see the green on it without magnifiers, but basically there's just the tiniest little like line of green underneath the granules.
How was it that you were able to wait 3 or 4 minutes after you reached the perfect temperature before you put the fungus salt in?
I wanted it to cool down, so I didn't burn my brush up.
So the so-called proper temperature is in the pan.
Oh, so the fusing temperature is much higher than what I did to lock the granules in place. So it goes to that annealing temperature to lock the granules, and then we let it cool down, add the copper salts once it's cool enough to, you know, not fry my brush, and now I'll take it up to the fusing temperature, and you'll see the difference.
Oh, okay, so you're reheating it in order to
Yep.
make the copper do
Yeah.
its thing.
Yeah.
Got it.
Doing it this way just means that I don't have to fight the granules moving out of alignment when I add the copper. This time I need my copper tones over here. All right. Turn this one off, because it's going to get very bright. I'm actually going to turn on my ventilation for this time. Just pull some of that heat away from my face. What you want to watch for, you probably won't be able to see it. There'll be a flash, kind of where it just shimmers on the surface, and that's when that bond is occurring. So yeah, much hotter. And I didn't quite keep my flame on it right when I went to the quench, so it is a little discolored, but I'll be able to look under my microscope here and see if the bond happened properly or not. Which it did appear to. So, Stacey, do you have a loop handy?
Yeah.
So if you have there's one in my apron hanging there. Peter, behind you, there's the apron with the towel hanging off of it.
This one?
Yeah. In the pocket, there's a loop. one of the front pockets.
I don't know what that is. So I'm just-
A little magnifier.
So because the bond is basically permanent, you can keep adding
Yeah.
to it without disturbing the original
Yep,
work.
I do not have to worry a thing. I can turn it upside down and granulate on the back. Here's the loop if you want. So probably with that, I would reheat it to try to quench it better and keep it that bright gold. And then we can also take, we have like little end bristle brushes. We can put polishing compound on there and get in. But really, one of the beauties about this process is that you can really control your heat and control when you quench it, and it comes out looking almost like it's already polished. Like there's very little cleanup that you need to do with it.
Can you take a granule off?
Not, you could grind it off. I couldn't go in there really and pull it. It would be tricky. One of the nice things, one of the nice like tricks that Kent taught us though is if you have one that's just like a little out of place, you can use what we call beading tools. These are steel tools that have a little cup in the end, and you can kind of nudge them over, you know, to a certain extent to where you need them to be. So I have used that a couple times where one just kind of got just a little out of line. I'm like, nah, go back where you're supposed to be. So.
We're talking millimeters or less here.
Very small, yeah, like tenths of millimeters. Yeah.
Wow. I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah, so what you're inspecting for when you know, finish fusing is preferably more than one point of contact. So you want the fusion to happen on the base, but also the side, to the granule next to it, or to the wire around the rim, to make a really good bond. Everything on that looks pretty good. When I was learning, we put it in the pickle and then put it in the sonic, and then you kind of see like, well, I thought that one was down, but now it's MIA. So, you know, but you just put another granule on it and keep going.
I'm surprised by how quickly it pulled off when you put it in the water.
Oh yeah, it's instant. Yeah. Quenching just pulls all the heat right out of it.
Now we're lucky to be able to start dreaming up ways in which you take something that old and play with it in a new way. And we're going to be trying to develop 12 pieces or so in this technique for the case. And make it be an offering for our custom too.
We already have plans to take some of Stacy's waxes from different production designs that she's had in the past that we think would really be suited to adding granulation to. And we'll be able to use this cast in this alloy. It's a dream to work in, this 18 karat. Like it moves so easy, it stays so clean. Like rolling and making wire and everything is usually, you know, a pain in the butt, but with this alloy in particular, it's just like butter. So it really is.
The stamens are really in the belly blossoms.
Yeah, and it's so granulation basically refers to fuse, the process of fusing really. So it doesn't have to be just the beads. It can be, you know, filigree. It can be, you know, different elements. The ring that got passed around is completely fused together. There's not a speck of solder on that ring. So.
You want to look again now that you
And that was, the process of making that was really fun because it was just like, oh, well, you know, I'm going to shape this piece, and basically did each leaf one at a time. And you could not dream of doing something like that with soldering because, you know, you'd solder one leaf down and go to solder the next one and the first one would move, you know, but this, you just don't have to worry about it. It's really freeing.
The toughness of the ring, like of the gold, as far as like wearing it as a ring, like would it be kind of a special piece, or do you think it would be an everyday ring? Like durability wise.
Durability wise, I mean, 18 karat is softer, you know, so you are going to see slightly more wear with something like that if you wear it every day. Depending on the complexity of the design, though, if you have something that, you know, has rails protecting the granules, where the raised elements are higher than the granules themselves. That's going to protect that pattern. So there's definitely ways to construct something that would totally be suitable for an everyday ring. And then obviously necklace and earrings, I mean, you're good to go.
It's amazing that this fusion technique, instead of soldering, has allowed, what is it, close to 7,000 years
Yeah.
worth. That's why they look like they are brand new, some of these pieces.
Yeah, you're not introducing other metals in there. You know, it's very pure. Yeah, it's a dream. And if I mess up, one of my pieces from the class. Let me go back to the picture. Where is he? I was gonna keep this little guy. I cleaned the edge up and you know, had it all nice and everything, and I went to try to fuse a bail to the back, and I got it too hot. So, but the beauty of this is that because there are no other metals, there's no solder, I melt it back down, turn it back into a piece of sheet, and start all over again. You don't have to worry about it. You can't do that with something that has solder in it, because you're changing the makeup of the alloy too much.
So you melted the whole thing down?
Yeah. And I've been saving every little bit and scrap. You know, I have a container around here somewhere. It might be in the safe, but yeah, every little bit I clean off. If I had a cleaner bench and wasn't doing anything but granulation, I'd be saving the dust too. I'd be saving the filings and melting those too. He actually did a demo with that. So, and the beauty, that's just the beauty of that alloy, is that it's so pure and it's so easy, it's so forgiving that you can just keep melting it and starting over again and again.
So you could do like very intricate filigree or like something with a lot of.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about, Stacy had the idea of
Yeah.
doing like
I know
like
that
an
too.
open link on a chain and having like a wire form, and then we can actually do it where there's no backing plate, so it's just the granules like edging the petals or edging the leaf and stuff. So we're really excited to play with this.
The sketch pads are busy.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very interesting.